Hey there, this is Adam Ryder, and you're listening to not the one, not the two, but the three count podcast here.
I'm in fashion, roll with cold passions.
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by now, with this being like our 200 something episode, y'all just know what to say. Just say it with me. I am your Sherpa because, like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficient. You can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring today? Well, you can find this person at WrestleCore. You can find him at Defy, LPW, PNW, NEW, Prestige, Cobra Kai, 365, and SOS. He's the smooth one. He is the suave one. He's the one with the hair and the mustache. He's got the look, and he is the Haida Heartthrob, Adam Ryder.
Yo, thanks for having me. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate it, Red man. This is fantastic. I'm happy to actually be here, and the Haida Heartthrob's happy to come on in and see if I can help out, give any advice, but also be here and just have a great conversation with you.
Hell yeah, that's what it's really all about. Like, we started this show like over like COVID, and we never imagined that we would even get close to like 300 episodes. And so, full transparency for those who are watching, this is like around 280 that we've done now. So it's like we've had a lot of cool people, but I was definitely excited because our brand is starting to go international. And I was like, yo, yeah, what else can I do but get some neighbors from the north and get them on the show and be like, hey, shine the spotlight over here, because you've worked quite a few names now that are just like growing on the scene, like a Josh Alexander, for example, which I was like, holy cow, my man's got the resume that reads well.
Yeah, it took a while to build it, man. But like, yeah, I've had a killer summer just on its own, man. And like, and it's cool. It was funny. The weekend I wrestled Josh Alexander's, the same. The next day I wrestled Davey Richards, and the next day I wrestled Trey McGill. And
Yes.
it was the sickest Friday, Saturday, Sunday I think in indie wrestling. So I was super pumped.
I mean, it's crazy too, because you're like, when like me looking back, and I was like, dang, man, these are a lot of people. Like, especially because like I'm such a massive fan of like the Impact scene. So to see you working these three, and then Alan Angels, like I was like, holy shit, dude. I was like, I was reading your resume and just kind of going back and looking through some of your matches and stuff, and I was like, damn.
I appreciate it, man. Like my resume only really started to grow, I think, come like May. Actually, it was starting to kind of get bigger and bigger. And it's funny because I've done this for so long, but I had a decent resume before too. I will say I've wrestled like tons of guys, like older stars. Like I've wrestled Gangrel a ton. I've wrestled Billy Gunn. I've wrestled Rikishi a ton of times. I've done all these kind of guys, but it's like now I'm actually getting to that, getting to wrestle a lot of these indie names, like or former indie names. Like you're hitting your Impact names now. You're hitting like even a couple. I've got a couple other guys I've wrestled, like AEW guys. I've wrestled Luchasaurus, Thunder Rosa, and a few different things, and like. It's only really happened. I can say it really happened in the last like year of my career, but it also happened a little bit before too. But now it's just a bit more consistent and going in the right direction.
Yeah, you're like, man, I'm working like all the big names now. Like eventually someone's gonna be like, hey, Canada's next great export right here on the show.
Trying, man. We'll see how we do, but I'll keep the train going and see what we can make happen.
Hell yeah. So listen, I gotta ask the first question that's gonna be right off the jump. Who is Adam Ryder?
Adam Ryder is I'm a guy from a small town up north. I'm again the Haida Heartthrob. My family is from Haida, which is an island to the west of British Columbia. You'll see it just off there. It's a big island up there. My family's from there, and I originally became the Haida Heartthrob because I wanted to kind of represent my family a little bit more. Actually, I'd seen an event over COVID that I saw this Indigenous person, this Native person, First Nation person, who was really showing their performance and like showing their colors during their performance. And I asked him, how do you represent? What's the best way to do it? And he said through your art. And honestly, I was like, well, wrestling's my art. I know that. And it kind of all kind of fell together. It took honestly, it took about 6 months to get everything together, my look, my everything. But that's kind of who Adam Ryder is now. Adam Ryder's the Haida Heartthrob more so. Adam Ryder, he was a different guy before. He was just some generic wrestler back in the day. When you first, like every other wrestler, when you first start out, you're kind of finding your own feet. But it took a while to get here. But man, it's happy to take the long way around and finally get to where I am.
And sometimes the scenic route is always the best route to take. Like I know a lot of people are like the shortest distance between point A and point B is just a straight line, and sometimes it's like, yeah, it's true, but sometimes like to gain those, like you got to take the side quests. Like
Yeah,
you gotta.
100%. You got to do the extra work, and I get it. And I will say this: my body would have preferred probably going in that straight line than going around every other which way. But I mean, you get where you get. And we're here now.
I totally understand because as a person that went from like college wrestling into the military and then finally finding my way back through and like my body yo-yoing, I've talked about it a few times where like I weighed like 230 and now I'm back down to like 194, and I've been in the sport now for like just over 2.5 years. It's like I'm all sorts of beat up from like all sorts of stuff, and then I'm like, yeah, let me just throw myself on a mat repeatedly.
Why not? That's the next logical step. Why not?
Yeah. So how did you get into the sport?
Well, I got into the sport because another little bit long way around, but I loved it when I was a kid. Saw my first, I saw Hulk Hogan, loved him as 3-year-old. And then as a 9-year-old, I saw X-Pac on Raw jumping off a cage. And I was like, this is amazing. And then fell in love with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and all the way up to about 2002. I went and rented old videotapes for about 53 cents a day. And I'd watch old pay-per-views. And that was kind of my thing on weekends. So I'd be like, yeah, Saturday, I got nothing to do. Well, time to rent a pay-per-view. Oh, I'm having a friend over. Hey, do you want to watch wrestling? Yeah, let's go rent an old VHS. A lot of them didn't like it as much as I did, but I was like, maybe we should do that. Why not? And it was good though. Kind of kept me watching stuff, So I'd watch pay-per-views all the time, old pay-per-views from like WWE stuff too, or WWF stuff from 95 till about 98, and because I was watching 99 at the time. And then I found out one of my favorite wrestlers, two of my favorite wrestlers, Scott Hall, or rather, Razor Ramon and Kevin and Diesel, ended up disappearing, quitting wrestling. I thought they quit wrestling until I found this thing called WCW. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I saw that. So that was cool. But yeah, no, it's, wrestling has been an interesting time because after that, I you kind of, like every other person, you follow out a love of wrestling, come back to it. And I had a friend who brought me back into it watching the Unbreakable 2005 TNA pay-per-view with AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, and Christopher Daniels. And I watched that match and I love this. And he said he's going to go get trained by Lance Storm. And I go off to university in short, and I decide, I'm like, when I'm there, I'm like, it's a film school actually. And I'm like, I don't want to do film. But I'm like, I have another friend who actually knows a local wrestler. So I go watch a local show, and it's actually El Fantasma. The match says El Fantasma versus Kyle O'Reilly. And I loved it. And this is when Kyle O'Reilly was first starting out, and LP was starting out. And I'm like, I want to do that. So I called my friend, and we ended up going to Storm's Wrestling Academy together in 2008.
And like, what a amazing dude to be like learning from, right? Someone that's just kind of been all over the world and then notoriously known through all of just like the US, especially down where we are, like just being always like on point with like everything, but can wrestle every single style, and then just technically is like one of the most sound dudes ever.
That guy is very technically sound, and it's like watching back on his stuff too. I kind of get. I watch more of his stuff, and I'm like, I see his style, I see how it kind of works, and he trained with so many different wrestlers up here. You can always kind of spot a Storm kid in Canada. I'm like, yeah, you're trained by Storm, I can tell. But I will say it's hilarious to me when I'm like, I meet another Storm kid, and I'm like, yeah, they're like, yeah, I trained with Storm. I'm like, yeah, it's like, well, he got trained in like 2017. Like, when did you get trained? I'm like, 2008. Yeah, that's good.
But it is crazy to think, like, it's something that I really started to appreciate and learn, because my trainer, he actually learned from Ruckus,
Okay.
And Ruckus has like been working with me as well as so as my trainer, and so I've been learning like different styles. But
Yeah.
Ruckus is a legend himself, and I'm like I get to listen and talk to him about how to be more technically sound and how to be able to do this move and that move, and it's
Yep.
a lot to learn. But
Yep.
it's like it's always about the basics, and that's what I definitely love. And it's like to build like such a giant platform and have like you can have like a million moves, but if you can do like five of them like really, really well, like you
Mhm.
can do a lot with just those five moves. And I feel like that's where I'm at. Like, I'm like, yeah, I could do that 450 off the top rope and make it look cool. Or I can just hit somebody with like a devastating spine buster and it's the same thing. Like,
Same pop, exactly.
yeah,
So, and it's up to you. I mean, like whatever you kind of want to do, right? Like I've learned a few different things as well, like with deciding what moves you want to do. Like I was doing frog splashes just for a little bit, and I'm like, my forearms don't like it. I also dislocated my elbow doing a shooting star press in like my 10th match ever, so I stopped doing that. Uh, so I started doing frog splashes again this year, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to switch to a swanton because my hips can take it, but my elbow can't. So let's do things like that. And and it's the exact same. You get the exact same pop, anyways. Doesn't matter. Um, but there's a lot of. I always find the trick with moves as well is you got to know where they fit and where like can they fit in different spots. And you can make some say you can make moves work in any spot. I agree, but it's true though that other move if you know where your move fits nicely, you can kind of make it a bit more reliable and have a little bit more reliable matches just based on that too. I find. So I mean, I love moves are fantastic. I try to minimize the damage I take myself. I will say this: I'm taking more damage than I ever have in the past few years. So yeah, but whatever. Wrestling, you love it, right?
right. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I find myself because I've got Mike Quackenbush's book,
Yep.
and like I've been reading it, and like it's about 7 steps of like becoming like a great performer. And one of the things he talks about is like, what's your greatest hits, right? And
Yep.
if you haven't taken those few moves that you can do really well and like play with them and put them in different spots, you're never going to know what your real greatest hits are or even what your B side is. And I think that that's such a powerful thing to think about is like, if you're here and you're like, I hit a spine buster right at the beginning of the show, why? Like,
Yeah.
save that to the end if you want that to be like your desperation move because the crowd might pop more if they know that you're just taking damage repeatedly and then like you come up with this big move and then the crowd just explodes. And I find like that's like one of my favorite things to do is like I like running as a face. I do like running as a heel, but I love running as a face because I can feel like the crowd is like getting behind me because I'm like I
Yeah.
don't. Something I learned to finally stop doing was dying in
Yeah.
my matches,
Yeah.
and like I'll take shot after shot, but then like I hit the big move and you can hear the crowd pop, and I'm just like, cool, we're on point again.
Yep.
Otherwise, like it's just that.
Yeah, and the thing he caught my attention on, especially, is like he stopped dying. I'm like, good, good. There's a lot of wrestlers out there that are like that will die in a match. There's also a lot of other as baby faces they'll die out there. As heels as well, though, they just eat up all the room. They eat up all the air, so you have no choice but to die. So yeah, there's a interesting few different points to that because a good heel knows when to let it breathe, but also when to give a chance to get the fans back, and a face knows exactly like when they got to start fighting back, right? And man, my one biggest bit of advice actually when I try and give people too, it's not just well, when you start out, you ever heard the term when you start out. If you think you're going too fast, slow down. If you think you're going too slow, slow down.
Yep.
Uh, I'll tell you this. That's great for beginners. But when you start getting a little more advanced, you start understanding timing a little bit more, and you're hearing people a lot more, and you're getting out of your head. When you think you're going too fast, slow down. When you think you're going too slow, you are. Speed up. It's true.
I
It's
like
true.
that.
And a lot of people sit in that mindset of slowing down. I'm like, fuck no, this is not the 80s anymore. This is not the 80s. We are not even the 90s. We are in a time where you have to be responsive exactly to when the fans are going. And the 80s and 90s did it too. I can't even blame them because a lot of it's more so that a lot of people take way too much time, and a lot of the people that you're against, the heels, don't understand like what should keep a person down. Okay, now you can take your time. Now you can kick it up fifth gear. When you think you're going too slow, you probably are as a more experienced person. And what it also means is get your gas up. Get your gas up because you got to be ready to go like that when it's time. Yeah. So that's my take, at least from what I've seen.
No, it makes sense though, because it's like you do see some of those matches where I adore watching Jade Cargill currently, right? She's definitely like, it's cool to watch because it's someone that I like. I'm like, well, look at her. Like, she kind of roughly, she started late, right? She's about the same time frame that I'm in right now. And like, you see like her matches, and no disrespect, they're very A, B, C, D, E, right? All the way through. But you can see when she's like, the crowd is starting to go, and she's got such great veteran faces with her that they're like, all right, let's go. Here we go. And then you can see like they pick up. So it's cool to see like a good face be able to be like, hey, this is the point where we start picking up the pace, because now she's getting it and she's like understanding like, all right, we can keep moving. We get this spot. We can let this spot breathe, but then we can let this spot kind of shorten up and we can just keep going. So it's cool. It's cool to watch her and kind of like, all right, bet. So I see the stuff that she's going through.
Yeah,
I have those same growing pains too.
Yeah, and I it's good though, and she's got some of the best. She got the best people in the world to learn from, right? Too. So she's going to be growing so fast on here. So I think it's great for her to kind of keep going in with those good faces. What's going to be cool is like now when she turns it to face, becomes a face at some point. She's also going to be a much better face because she'll be like, she can pick up so many things from them. And then when she turns heel again, she'll be even better. That's the one thing I've noticed, man. When you start wherever you start off as a face, well, it's like you start thinking, I'd like my heel to start doing this for me. So will you become that heel now? And now when you're that heel, you start working that for a while. You're like, I wish my face did ABC a bit more. Now you start doing exactly that, ABC. And then you start saying again, I wish my heel did this. And it actually made, I will say, it's made me a much better face because of it, like a much better face. Because I was a heel for so long that honestly, I was like, it kind of took me a second to get my footing to being a face again, which only really happened. Like literally, I was a heel for 6 years, and then I was a face in February for Defy, and I'm like, and it was my first Defy match. I'm like, shit, I gotta get my feet under me, and I figured it out. But then like by May, I was like, I think I've had some of the best matches I've ever had just as a face now too. So I'm pretty happy about that.
And that's cool though. Like you're able to pick from both sides, like as you're working it, and you're like noticing the things, and like just make them bigger into your folder of like, hey, this is my list of things. I know for me, like I'm always going back and finding people who are like come my mentors and stuff, and just like ask them like pick apart my match. And I have a friend that I legit will be like, hey man, this is like one of my favorite matches. Can you like make me not like it? He's like, yeah. Then he sends me back at things, and I was like, I hate this match. This is the worst. I don't even know why I'm watching this match anymore. Like I got overcritical on it, and I was like, I did like it at one time.
It's funny. It's like, and the thing is, like, you're gonna always learn like from your favorite matches and whatnot. Like, I'm always interested in like people listening to people like which matches they put over. I'm like, all right, let's take a look. The only problem is when they put it over, guess what? Now you're seeing those exact spots from that match everywhere. At every indie show, and you're like, well, never mind. Okay, we can't use that spot anymore. Like the second I remember seeing, a good example a few years ago, Arn Anderson showing the spot with Arn Anderson throwing the punch duck, and he ducks, you catch him for the DDT. You couldn't go anywhere for the next 2 months without seeing that spot on every indie show. And I was like, oh shit. And then FTR starts doing it too. I was like, oh yeah, makes sense. So I'm just like, made me laugh. But it's like, so I try to find obscure things. I try to find one spot for an obscure match. I'm like, as simple as it is, as simple as it could just be like ending with a punch in the face, but like I want something a little different like that,
Yeah, it was something that I like took away. It was like, because I used to run this spot, right, and it's kind of evolved into what it is now. But when I first started doing it, I'd have people like throw a clothesline, I would duck underneath, and I would pop up. And because my character itself is a mercenary, but he's like Deadpool, right? Essentially. Yeah. So like I would shoot people in the shoulders, and they would like sell like they're getting shot, and then shoot them in the knees, and then like have them stand back up and hit them with like a big clothesline. And I had a promoter come to me and was like, yo, I hate that spot, so don't do it anymore or you're not coming back. And I was like, Okay. So then we started like playing with the idea of like, how can we get this over but still make it look realistic? So I was fortunate to work with a guy named Dave Dahl who was like, hey, this is what I would do. So we
Yeah.
came out and I had the gun still pointed and he like smacked it away. And then it was a left to, a shot to the shoulder, like with me punching him, two
Yeah.
strikes up top, two strikes to the knees. And as he's down, like I would hit him with the Miz DDT.
Yeah.
And so now it's kind of evolved to where it's just two shots to the top, sweep out a leg, and then hit a DDT. But we call it the grenade spot because like I legit grab a guy by the face and I'm like, hey, it's a grenade. And like I throw it up so they look up and then just bam, hit him with a DDT down. And I was like, nobody else is running the spot because if somebody else is like, hey, I got to run that spot and be like, you took that from me.
Yeah, I got a couple things I do that I'm watching and I'm like, I see it happening, but it's like, yeah, I get you. Sometimes you wanna watch those spots there. You'll see someone evolve it. They'll say something different though, and boom, boom, and take it. And it just think of it like this, man. I've taken it like this. It's a most sincere form of flattery. When someone imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. I'm waiting for the day. I've said it before too. Is waiting for the day for someone to start doing the Pele kick like I do. Because it's that's the one thing I do that I'm like, no, I know I created that transition into it, which is just small things, but it's like if someone does it the way I do, okay, cool. I'm like, that's kind of then it was going to happen one way or another, so I appreciate it regardless. But
Oh, I definitely would be flattered if someone was just like, oh yeah, and then just like throws it. I'd be like, yeah, all right. Someone's been peeping my TikTok or my Instagram.
yeah, exactly. Maybe you got over on the Wrestling with Unicorns Instagram page. Who knows? There, that you ever seen that?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
they post all the spots on there, and again, you see one, you're like, oh, that's the new spot. Taking that one. Oh god.
I'm just waiting for someone to do like Luigi Primo's spot with like it's like the dough. Like
Man, I'm trying to
that's
think.
like the one that's like. By the way, for anybody wondering like when we're recording this, that's like the new thing that people are like talking about. It's like
He's got this week. He's over this week.
Yep.
Yeah,
It really is.
I'm excited. It's good for him. I hope that I watched some of his stuff from years ago, and I was like, oh yeah, he's been doing this for a while. It just took a while for this to get over online. And I'm like, oh Jesus. So good for him. Good for him.
So you've been in for quite some time, right? And so I know you have to have one of these stories because everybody has these kind of stories. But what's the worst bump you've taken?
Well, do you want the one where it's like, do you want the one where I'm most injured, or do you want the one where it's like a little bit grosser?
So I try to stay away from injury stories because, like, although like those usually have like the most gnarliest bumps, it's like I don't know. It's one of those bumps that it just kind of just sucked to take, but you didn't really get too hurt. But I don't know. Every time I ask that question, somebody else comes in like, "Oh man, this one time I took a clothesline over the top rope and I missed a lip and I just landed on my neck." I'm like, "What?"
I'll tell you, man, the worst bump I've ever done. Me and Gangrel wrestling on this show. We go outside. There's some it's cement floor. Like there's no give on any floor, regardless, whatever you do it on. But he ends up, we're fighting, boom, boom. He's like, body slam. I'm like, motherfucker. But I was going to clothesline him. He's going to bump on the ground anyways, too. So I'm like, I can't say shit to Gangrel if he's willing to bump on cement. That crazy bugger. I'm like, okay. I'm fine. Slams me. And I shit you not, this close to shit in my drawers. It was the worst. I've never arched my back so hard to hope to God that I didn't shit my pants. But I didn't, thank God. I caught, but I was like, I swear to God, it took just a little bit more of a slam. He put like an ounce of more effort in that slam. I'd have been running to the back, been like, match over, count me out. I'm done. Thanks. Because, oh God, thankfully I was wearing black trunks, but still, worst. I can remember that bump vividly. I don't like slams on the floor anymore. It's that was the worst. That was let's just call that the worst or most memorable worst one.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
So usually somebody has one of these things. So what's your ritual like after the show? Like do you have like a post-match meal that you have to have? What's the thing?
I don't really have a post. I won't say there's a post-match ritual. It depends. Like if I know I don't have to drive, I'm like, crack a beer, just chill and whatnot. I have no real post-match ritual. I definitely have pre-match where I'm like, knock on wood, knock on wood a certain amount of times, whatever times in the top of my head. I'm like, there, got to do it then. And then it's a lot of knee and ankle warm-ups. I've had a lot of weird little small injuries lately, so I've really been emphasizing hard on the ankle and knee warm-ups. I had 16 matches in 27 days last month, and I will tell you, it's like, those guys used to be on the road all the time. Like, motherfuckers, how I don't know exactly how they did, and I didn't have matches that killed me each night. Probably 8 to 10 of those were ones where I bumped pretty hard, and then the other 6 were a little more chill. But even then, it's like, still, man, I was a hurting unit. So, it's my pre-match is just knock on wood, make sure we're all good, warm those knees up, warm those ankles up, warm those hips up too, because man, they catch up on you. So it's that's more my pre-match ritual. I say post-match. I mean, I'm down to grab a beer with whoever, so I'm always happy for that. And I'd say that's more my post-match.
Nice. I do have to agree, like, because I know, like, especially for me, like, getting up in age, I'm like, I gotta warm this body up and just keep it loose. But then, like, sometimes I find myself getting so nervous that, like, I'll just want to be in a section by myself. Like, I'll say hi to everybody, I'll talk to everybody. I'm very, like, friendly, but like once like we get closer to showtime, I just try to like get withdrawn and just kind of stay by myself because I'm just like, I'm getting so nervous and I get tensed. And then, like, by the time like I hit the door, get ready to hit the curtain, like finally my body's like loosened up and I'm just like, all right, big moves. And I was like, I never stretched before we went out here.
Yeah, I get you. I didn't used to like really warm up or anything back in the day. And I'm like, man, one thing that I've learned from, I can't forget which pro I heard this from, but it was like, you're a professional athlete. You have to treat it like a professional athlete. You have to warm up like a professional athlete. You have to do that stuff. I'm like, oh shit, you got to take care of all the little things and all the time. And I was like, oh man. And you try to, but it's like I fall by the wayside so often. But I know my warm-ups have gotten 10 times better, so I'm usually all good. But even working out, like, you got to work out those injuries. You got to keep them fucking like going. And even then, like I said, I'm trying to stay on it, but it's so easy to fall off all the time when you got a full-time job, when you're working and you're doing wrestling. It's like, yeah, it can be hard to focus on it too.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And then, you always gotta stay hydrated too, drink all the water that you can, not too much, just stay within limit.
So I got the 3-gallon bottle. Got to drink one of these a day.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
so what's like one of the hardest lessons that you've had to learn being in the business?
Hardest lessons I've learned? Well, I mean, like, I didn't, it's funny is I didn't actually have an Instagram or Twitter account until like 2019. I just didn't care, to be honest. I've never been a fan of it, but it's also the way you had to reach out, and it's an asset to you, right? I would say some of the hardest lessons, I was really on autopilot for so many years with wrestling, but it's like, no, I wanted to do something with it, but I just didn't have it then and the support or anything then. So, now I'm really trying to put all that together and like push myself to do more with wrestling. So, if I had to give you hard lessons, man, make sure you take your social media, like at least semi-seriously, because it's an asset to you. Make sure that you're marketable. Wrestling is like, the least important part of wrestling is wrestling. It's the entertainment. It's keeping them happy and going, keeping them engaged. And that doesn't have to be you actually doing the wrestling. Friggin', oh, no, I could do all these sorts of different holds. It's great. And you can make that work. But you can make that work as part of your gimmick to keep people entertained, of course. But entertaining people is keeping conscious of them is one of the most important things. It's not really a hard lesson for a lot of the wrestlers, I'd say, but I would say a hard lesson as well is get out wherever you are. Just get out. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be living in LA, you could be living in Houston, you could be living in Vancouver, Canada here. Get out. Get everywhere. Get seen. It's the biggest thing that gets more eyes on you and gets people to say, like, that's part of wrestling is when they start seeing you a lot more. The idea is like you want to get everybody you wrestle to say, yeah, I had my best match against this guy. And when they can start saying that about you, you're doing fantastic, because that's what actually gets, from what I've seen, that's what gets you hired. Everybody I've talked to, that's what gets you hired. So yeah, consistency and getting out a lot more.
Yeah, it's something that I've definitely taken into account. Is like I want to wrestle in different areas, and so this year was and I say this year, but this is my second year. But after my first year, I think I had like 4 matches in like 2020. Obviously, COVID had a big impact on that.
Yeah.
Um, and then it's funny because you said you had was it 16 matches in 27 days,
Yeah.
and I had 17 matches of all 2021. But I was venturing out to different places and learning different like just picking up different feedback from different people. And then this year I've, not that I would be like, oh yeah, but 30 is like 30 something matches now, but I've gone through like 4 different states, which was like massive for me because like last year I think I wrestled in like 3. And so I was like, all right, we're growing and it's getting out there and I'm putting myself out further. So I definitely it's something is definitely noticeable by me and then other people that see me like drive up to like Massachusetts, right, which is an 8-hour drive for me from Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, yeah, I'm gonna make this drive because I want to be a part of your guys' show. And then they're like, oh, and like I'll be back up here in December because that's when I'm planning on going back up. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, it's just like I see the rewards of like being able to get out of your area and learn from other people who are doing things that you want to do.
Yeah. Well, so at the time, so just so you know, when I first started back in, my first official match was January 10th, 2009. When I first started, I lived in a town called Prince George, and I traveled with one other guy that lived there. We had a minimum of 8-hour drive in any direction to get to the next wrestling show. So we'd drive to Edmonton. That's 8 hours away to the east of Prince George. We'd wrestle usually a double shot, then drive back on the Sunday. So we'd leave Friday morning, wrestle Saturday, come back Sunday, and then we'd probably have a weekend break. We wouldn't do anything that weekend, but the next weekend we had about a double or a triple shot, where we'd go wrestle Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then come back either Sunday night or Monday morning back to town. But that was minimum an 8-hour drive, sometimes a 9.5-hour drive, because you'd only be able to go wrestle in Edmonton, Kelowna, or Vancouver back when in Canada. Like that was the closest places you could wrestle at Prince George, and we were insane because that was my first 2 years, and my first 2 years of wrestling. I did that every second weekend at very least, and it was banana. I will say I was very lucky because I got to travel with him, but I should have moved down south earlier and just wrestled so I saved myself the travel. But yeah, that's a hard lesson. Move to where wrestling is. There you go. There's a suggestion because the road can suck. But my first 2 years were just nuts, and I'm happy to not do that again.
Well, I mean, yeah, I could understand that. I was
Yeah,
like,
I'll,
I
I'll
know,
still,
I
I'll
know, I'm
still
not 8 hour
travel.
nothing.
Yeah, I'll still travel 8 hours now, but I mean, I will not live somewhere where there is not wrestling. There has to be wrestling locally here for me to live there.
Yeah, I haven't double shotted something yet. I'm definitely next year. I think I'm gonna try to push for something like that and just try to see what it feels like because this year I was like getting out up into Massachusetts just kind of happened to be a happy coincidence because my wife's family lives there, so I'm like, all right, I can make this drive up here and at least show face somewhere and work. And then so I've done that, and then I come back, and then I've been through like all through New Jersey and stuff like that,
Yeah,
and make those small drives. But New Jersey has like a little booming population of wrestling going on there now, and then so does uh, Pennsylvania. And I'm just now starting to venture out and around these like the quad states and just having fun like working at these other places. But yeah, I definitely understand the benefits of like getting to places like I don't know. Tennessee eventually will be a spot that I decide to go down and work in, and that's like an 8-hour drive as well.
yeah, man, get your reps in. That's a big thing early on too. Is get your reps in, work a whole bunch of different people, and figure out what you like to do, what you don't. So that's awesome. Get on that road, man. So good on you. Good on you. I'm yeah, I'd like to get to a point too where I can start picking and choosing and just going to different spots. But I got to start sending off actually out of outside of Washington and Oregon because that's kind of the states I'm trying to work a lot more. I want to work Defy all the time. I want to work Prestige all the time. Even POW Pro Wrestling would be great to work a little bit more down south. But I want to get to LA. Or not LA. I want to get to California so I can work in San Francisco, even down there for West Coast Pro, and then a few different places in LA as well. So I'm hoping that's kind of my next goal right now.
Hell yeah! So You've been around a lot of different locker rooms, so I got to know. I need one do and one don't of the locker room.
I mean, it's, I wish I could. It's like I wish I had like kind of better do's and don'ts. But I'm gonna say don't, just for a don't be an asshole. As obvious as that is, yeah, don't be an asshole. I would say if there's an opportunity to use a different bathroom, use a different bathroom instead of the locker room bathroom. Nobody likes hovering in shit smell for hours on end. And then a do for sure. I mean, I'd say introduce yourself to everybody. I don't know if the handshake's as popular anymore. I think it is still pretty popular, but the do is just say hi to everybody. I'd say it like that. Say hi to everybody. Even if you don't get a chance to fully introduce, say hi. Say, hey man, sorry, or say hi. I'm sorry I didn't get introduced earlier. Nice to meet you, dude. Cheers. And it's because we get booked off each other. We know each other well. We're kind of that small group that really you kind of want to hang out with and you get along with because you'll be spending time with them in the locker room going forward. Yeah, don't shit in the shared locker room area if the washrooms are close by. That's the best thing. Yeah.
Well, those are like all my heavy hitting questions, but we do gotta get into the second best segment of the 3 Count podcast, and that is the 10 count questions. You're probably trying to figure out what the first is. It's right there. It's actually Red Dog's power rankings that you find sometimes on our Sunday debate shows because there's a lot of wrestling and I can't always put a top 10 together. But this is the 3 Count podcast, 10 count questions. And this is how it works, Mr. Ryder. I'm going to fire off 10 questions at you rapid, fast. And whatever your answer is, that's your answer.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go.
So we're going to put it on the imaginary timer for added pressure. Bing! And in the words of Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
Raw.
Favorite movie?
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay. Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Favorite cartoon?
X-Men, early X-Men, 92.
Yes, because you know what? Hey, we'll pause that timer. I cannot wait for the animated series to be revitalized on Disney Plus.
Yep,
like,
it'll be
I'm
fantastic.
so hyped, and they brought back most of the original voice actors. I was like, let's get it.
That's amazing.
So, is it Buddy or Pal?
Buddy.
Favorite actor?
Oh shoot. Oh no, I don't have any favorite actor that comes to mind. Let's put Danny DeVito because I like It's Always Sunny.
I love Danny DeVito. City life or country life?
City.
Favorite podcast?
I'm gonna put over right now because I'm listening a lot. Actually, no, I'm gonna put What Happened When, Tony Schiavone.
Okay, nice. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
Put Michael Richard Blaze.
Okay.
Yep.
And then last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person that comes on this show. Favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Right?
That's easy. Yeah. It's easy.
I love, I talk about this like all the time. Anytime someone brings it, I'm like, it's the best word to use because you can put it everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's an adjective. It's a noun. It's everything. It's a verb. It's everything. Everything.
Yeah. It's like everything everywhere all at once. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. Phenomenal movie, by the way. If you get to watch it yet, amazing.
Yeah, I agree that it's on my list of movies that you have to watch because it is very good. Yes. So those are all my questions. So the last thing I need from you is to let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
Perfect. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I got it's all under the same URL. It's the same tag. It's Adam Ryder with a Y, and then the letters HHT. Adam Ryder HHT. Whether it be on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, you can find me all in there. Follow me on there. I put up some cool pics and vids and all that fun stuff. It's really just I like to put up cool shit that I can do, and then it's I'll say social media is not my favorite, but I do like posting some fun stuff on there. Yeah, what I like is I really like putting over. I'll put over a couple different matches on there, and then I'll just put up some cool. Honestly, I'll just retweet a bunch of cool shit I find for moves where I'm like, that's insane. That's cool.
Well, there you have it. He gave you all his handles. He even gave you his thought process on how he shares things on his social media platforms. But you know what that means. It's like every great part of a wrestling match. We got to take it home. Because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. But like every good Sherpa, you got to have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering, and who's entering ring. You see him right there, Adam Ryder. And you guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there, or you're legitimately just following on all of our social media platforms. You're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're buying our merch, right? ProWrestlingTees.com/the 3 Count Podcast. You're even subscribed to us on Spotify or Apple iTunes, leaving those 5-star reviews, telling us about how great of a job we're doing. And if we're not, just tell us that we're doing a bad job and we'll try to fix it or something like that. But anyway, you're doing all that stuff and you're sharing it with your friends, or you're really just waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for that outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Peace.
Cheers.
What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want you to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3 Count _ pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3 Count Pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3 Count Podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3 Count Podcast also has merchandise. Oh, at ProWrestlingTees.com/the 3 Count Pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So show us some support, please.